A quick note that the celebration of our tiny treasures will follow immediately after the sermon. I was smart enough not to put it before the sermon. Shabbat Shalom and Good Yontif. The story is told of a grandmother who drove her young grandson to the synagogue. When they arrived, the grandmother asked the child to put away his cell phone and to unbuckle. Negotiating the seatbelt, the child turned to his grandmother and asked, "Do I click the red square?" "Yes, darling," she replied. Then the child asked, "Is it a single click or a double click?" Due to the transformations brought on by the internet age, along with the pandemic, war in Europe, and geopolitical conflicts, the rising price of just about everything, and other global trends, society is experiencing rapid change and radical uncertainty on perhaps a grander scale than ever. As a result, our world is becoming more polarized, social trust is plummeting while social media's ills and evils proliferate. Acts of hatred, especially anti-Semitism, are increasing. In the last 10 years or so, sadness and loneliness have gripped our nation. Anger manifests in ways small and large, public and private. Historically, during eras of uncertainty, Judaism has served as a source of comfort, and the synagogue has been our sanctuary. In the good times, too, the synagogue has been our second home, in which we celebrated with extended family, developed a sense of mission and purpose, and found our place as part of a people. The synagogue was central to our ancestors' lives and well-being. Yet today, even with our own significant political instability and unprecedented pace of social change, even with our need to find meaning and to comfort, synagogue attendance is on the decline, much like attendance at mainline churches across the United States. Our world has changed. Our theology has changed. Our community has changed. How we spend time has changed. Many synagogues, however, have not. A few hundred years ago, the dawn of the Enlightenment ushered in an era in which communal prayer became the centerpiece of synagogue life. In Eastern Europe, the oppression of Jews worsened, and in our powerlessness, prayer was the only response. In Western Europe, where the ghetto walls fell, the founders of Reform and Conservative Judaism added decorum and formality to the service as a radical attempt to integrate into Christian society. Similarly, in the mass migration to the United States in the 20th century, communal prayer functioned as a vehicle to Americanize Jews and Judaism. Our neighbors went to church on Sunday, we went to shul on Saturday, and everybody complained that the sermons were too long. While Jews of the modern period saw the communal prayer as answers to the needs of their day, in the 21st century, our postmodern relationship to communal prayer is different, and our Jewish community is already very American. The work week now includes weekends, and most households contain 2 working adults. Kids are far more scheduled than ever before, and technology has transformed every aspect of our lives. Perhaps even more significant, thank God, Jews are for the most part financially successful and physically safe. Thanks to modern advancements, we no longer worry about our next meal. Thanks to the blessings of America, we no longer feel the sense of desperation in the face of an oppressive government. So just as Americans stopped going to church, many Jews stopped coming to shul. There are consequences, however. With the decline in religious identification intersecting today's rapid change and radical uncertainty, I'm not surprised that more people are feeling lost. More teens are struggling to find their place. People are becoming meaner, and too many Americans are losing hope. America needs religion, but Americans don't want the religious institutions that we're currently offering. As such, around the country, and especially here in Michigan, we've reached a moment for deeper community collaborations and probably organizational mergers. Jewish Detroit was built for a different time and a different population. And our community needs to refocus to better serve the Jews of today and to reimagine the Jewish communal structure of tomorrow. That said, and thank God, if any community can reimagine and retool, it's ours. And so I think we can proceed into this new year with a sense of hope. I'm hopeful because this is not the first era of global turbulence. We've overcome worse. I'm hopeful too because I believe that we are ripe for a new chapter in Jewish life, so long as visionary, volunteer, and professional leaders, supported by generous philanthropists and compassionate elders, are empowered to pivot to meet the needs and desires of a new chapter, and a new generation. Today's era of rapid change and radical uncertainty deserves a 21st century response. And Zedek is poised to lead the way in providing a synagogue that can serve as a center for learning and a center for love that addresses the needs of today and tomorrow. First, I believe that the future of the American Jewish community requires a Judaism that can compete in the marketplace of ideas, that summons from the wisdom of 4,000 years of human experiences to advise on the complex moral issues of our times. As such, while still observing the mitzvah of tefillah and minyan, perhaps we need to begin de-emphasizing communal prayer as our central purpose. 2,000 years ago, facing the destruction of the Holy Temple, and with Judaism on the brink of destruction, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai snuck out of the besieged Jerusalem, hidden in a casket. Upon reaching the Roman general Vespasian, ben Zakkai popped out of his coffin and proclaimed, "Give me Yavne." And there in Yavne, a tiny town in the Galilee, the man who sprang from the coffin resurrected Judaism by establishing the first Beit Midrash, the first study hall, that taught two radical notions. One, study is greater than prayer. And two, learning is enhanced when people who disagree with each other engage respectfully with one another. I'm suggesting that we reclaim the synagogue as study hall. Moreover, I'm asking that we participate in the radically countercultural activity of Americans from different perspectives speaking with one another about contemporary challenges. In fact, it appears in America we have a new kind of mechitza. Instead of a separation dividing men from women, now there exists a wall dividing one political party from another. Congregation Zedek eliminated the gender mechitza a century ago, and I think we should eliminate the political mechitza too. Not, by the way, so I can tell you who to vote for, but so that we can learn and grow together in conversation with each other, preferably over a Friday night dinner, during Shabbat lunch, or while savoring a good glass of whiskey. We've reached our Yavne moment. In my heart, I know that embedded within Jewish thought are the solutions to the complex moral challenges of today. And I'm proud to share that we are already building here a community with wisdom at the center. So I invite you to learn with us through in-person classes or online videos, podcasts, or sermons. In addition, Rabbi Dahlin and I are published across a broad spectrum of magazines, newspapers, and journals for you to read. I'm also humbled to share with you that my new book is hot off the press. The book, entitled "Don't Forget to Call Home: What God and Grandpa Teach Us About a Life of Meaning," will be gifted to every member of our congregational family thanks to the generosity of Nancy and Aaron Tellem, and we're planning a book launch too. It's also available for purchase on Amazon.com and wherever great books are sold. The future of the American Jewish community requires a Judaism that summons from the wisdom of 4,000 years of human experience to advise on the complex moral issues of our time. Just as Zedek is becoming a sought-after Beit Midrash, we're also building a community with love at its center. Case in point, this past January, I did the scariest thing that I've ever done in my life. Now, mind you, I've jumped out of an airplane to go skydiving, and I give speeches in front of thousands of people, two activities which some might find terrifying. The scariest thing I've ever done, though, is when Rebecca and I put our then 15-year-old son, Caleb, on an airplane and sent him to study in Israel for 4 months on a high school semester abroad program through Camp Ramah. With tears in my eyes, I watched our Caleb confidently walk through the doors of Detroit Metro Airport. Giving children roots requires hard work. Allowing them the wings to fly, however, requires a tremendous act of faith. Thank God he had an amazing experience, and he returned safely to us, though now he's a licensed driver, which brings its own set of fears. Many of you know what I'm talking about regarding giving your children roots and wings. You've moved kids into college or watched them leave for their first jobs. And in these last many months, you've shared your wisdom with me about letting kids grow up. I also find comfort in knowing that our beloved synagogue family has helped to give Caleb, as well as our younger, now bar mitzvah boy son, Eyal, the skills necessary to confront new and sometimes challenging situations. My colleague, Rabbi Dave Levy, wrote a beautiful article recently in which he explained how raising our children as active members of a synagogue community can help them prepare for the new world. When the synagogue is second home to our children, they learn how to speak to people of all ages and how to sit next to people with whom they disagree. They learn the importance of standing up for Judaism, for Jews, and for Israel, and they learn how to care for others. They certainly learn how to work a buffet line, which includes lessons on how to make small talk, how to greet everyone warmly, and that often in life there's value in waiting for your turn, a lesson hard to swallow when there's 7-layer cake available. Most of all, our children have learned from you that they're not alone. They're part of a family, a community, and a people who will celebrate with them in the good times, mourn with them in the sad times, and stand by them in the challenging times. Study after study proves that people who are active members of their faith communities are happier and more resilient than those who are not. The sadness and anger of our world are mitigated by doing Jewish in the synagogue and by doing Jewish in the home. Sadness and anger are diminished when we show up to shul. Sadness and anger are lessened when we have others with whom we can come together in pursuit of meaning and purpose. Here in our synagogue home, I watch how our minyan regulars welcome with love and compassion a person who's saying Kaddish. I watch on Shabbat mornings as members full of joy and happiness embrace other members celebrating special birthdays, ufrufs, or children and grandchildren becoming bar bat mitzvah. There is healing and happiness in the synagogue. There is wisdom and love, resiliency and hope in the synagogue. In an era in which families spread around the world, and in a time when technology can lead to terrible loneliness, the presence of a loving synagogue community creates the connections that offer stability and support. Building community should be central to what we do as a synagogue, including finding the resources and volunteers to continue to break bread together. The congregation that eats together stays together. Speaking of the congregation that eats together, staying together, this new chapter in Judaism cannot be the watered-down version of Jewish thought or of Jewish life that some are trying. Rather, if we want to grow as a community and as a people, we must provide for adults and children alike a rich Judaism, a thick Judaism that is more like cholent than chicken soup, more like homemade challah than Wonder Bread. Don't you love a good homemade challah? You're already thinking about it, aren't you? I'm spoiled and I know it. Each Friday night, thanks to Rebecca's love and skill, the most delicious bread appears on our dinner table. But with 2 teenage boys, it never lasts long. Then during the week, I make sandwiches with the bread that I purchased from a local grocery store, where the bread aisle is as long as a city street and packed from floor to ceiling with the widest variety of breads imaginable. Sometimes we even spring for a loaf of something tasty from Dakota on Orchard Lake. Whenever we eat a piece of bread, we offer gratitude to God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, HaMotzi lechem min haaretz. Or as they sing at Camp Tamarack, HaMotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. But the language of the blessing is strange. HaMotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed is the one who brings forth bread from the earth. Now, I'm no farmer, but I am married to a farmer's daughter from the UP, and I know that bread does not come forth from the earth. In fact, bread is really hard to make. Grain needs planting and to receive the right amount of rain. Then the farmer needs to reap the grain, sort it so that the inedible part is removed, and then the grain is threshed and winnowed to become flour. The flour must then be sifted, mixed with liquid, and kneaded into dough. Only then can baking occur. According to the Midrash, our ancestors who wrote HaMotzi believed that in the Garden of Eden, bread literally grew on trees. Likewise, our rabbis envision a messianic era in which bread will once again grow from trees. No one will hunger because God will provide everything for us. Our rabbis fantasized about this mythical past and this paradise of a future because food was so scarce and hard to produce that they appreciated every morsel. They felt almost powerless. So they wrote a prayer of gratitude for the bread that once upon a time grew upon trees and for the bread that once again will grow on trees. We're not yet at the Messianic era, yet we're far more powerful than our ancestors could ever imagine. Today we are partners with God in the act of creation. Humans still must take the raw ingredients that God gives us, but look at the abundance of bread we can now create. As such, I would like to suggest a different understanding of HaMotzi that doesn't envision bread hanging from branches. As 21st century American Jews, when we say HaMotzi, we're celebrating the partnership between humans and God. Humans are far from omnipotent, but through HaMotzi, we acknowledge the power that is in our hands. The world is a difficult place today. Our political fields are parched and our emotional land is arid. Yet with careful cultivation, we are empowered to take the raw materials that God has given us and to partner with God to bring order to the chaos and to provide meaning and purpose for a modern world. The synagogue is our bakery. God gives us our brains, but it is up to us to engage in deep Jewish learning with people of different perspectives so that we humans can partner with God in addressing the great problems of our day. Likewise, God gives us our hearts. And when we come to the synagogue to comfort the mourner and to celebrate the simcha, to package food for the hungry, or to consume meals ourselves with family and friends, then we become partners with God in the sacred effort to bring meaning and kindness into people's lives. Indeed, the human condition has always been tenuous. And now, with the decline of religion, rapid change and radical uncertainty are taking their toll. Here at Zedek, though, we're forging a new path in response to new challenges. A life of active synagogue participation can offer sanctuary from the storms of today and can serve as a second home in which to live with joy and gratitude. In a little bit from now, when you eat your Rosh HaShanah lunch, and I promise it's just a little bit from now, I hope that you begin your meal with the words of HaMotzi. I hope you'll do the same at dinner time and perhaps in every meal that follows. I hope you remember HaMotzi's call to partner with God in pursuit of wisdom and in building a community of compassion. And I pray that our synagogue can be the bakery from which loaves of fresh challah abound. No longer powerless, in this new era we are God's partners in bringing healing and hope to the world. On this Shabbat, Rosh HaShanah, in the absence of shofar, may the voices of children lift our spirits and call us to begin a new chapter in Jewish life. May the sounds of youngsters remind us that our task is to renew and to reinvent. May the jubilant noise of kids in the sanctuary, on the pavilion, and on our new playground push us to become a center of wisdom, a center for love, and a center for HaMotzi, of acknowledging our obligation to partner with our Heavenly Parent, to bring order to chaos and to bring meaning and kindness into people's lives. Shana Tova u'Mituka. May it be a sweet, healthy, and bountiful new year for our synagogue and for us all. And let us say, Amen.